All right, welcome everyone to another episode. In this episode, I got a good friend with me right now, Richard Dent. Richard Dent, I've known for quite a long time. Very wise man. It's always give me some great information, and we still have good conversations to this day. And I wanted to bring him on here because I know there's a lot we could learn from Richard and the conversation we're about to have right now that's going to help many people out there. So we're going to just go ahead and dive right into this. Say what's up, Richard.
What's up?
All right. So, so first question, Rich, that I want to ask you is who were you before you really found yourself, before Jesus? Honestly, who are you? Who were you?
Um, I was basically just like most people, lost, looking for themselves and everything else. Um, you know, trying to find their way in the world. Gang member, selling drugs, you know, things of that nature, basically.
Right, right. So as far as when it comes down to, because the biggest thing is, with my channel, the best thing that I'm trying to do really is create some type of change in people, inspire change, whether and help people that are out there hurt, lost, broken, and just, help them in some type of way. Because I've been through a lot, and I know you've been through a lot. What what do you think that it was that helped you change in life? Like, what was the biggest thing? Because I'm sure you went through some trials and tribulations, but what was that main thing one day where it was like, man, I need to change. I'm just tired of my own shit. Like, what was it? Was there a certain moment or did something happen?
Well, for me personally, it was my children because once you have children, you kind of realize that you want better for them than what you had for yourself. And with me being in and out of jail, dealing with the gangs, being in the streets, I knew that if I wasn't here for them, that they would fall into the same traps that I did. So that was my turning point on my first idea that it's not about me anymore, it's about them, you know. And once that happened, that's where, of course, you start getting into other things, trying to change your life. You try to start doing better, but then, of course, that's where I also found the church, and I got into religion. You can't start anything if you don't really truly find that love. And then once I found that love, I understood the love not only for myself, but I truly love my children after that. And it humbles yourself, you know. So that's kind of how I see it, and that's where the turning point was for me.
Okay, okay. So let's peel back the layers a little bit. You said at some point too you found the church. Was there a certain like event that might have happened that led you to the church, or did you meet somebody, or how did that work out?
Well, I've always, of course, had church around me. The word is always there, either somebody praying for you, or of course, you know, every I guess you would say every hood apartment has those people that come and try to pick up the kids, and most of us would either just go to the church because we're getting free pizza or we're going to get free donuts and we get to hang out for a little while with our friends. So the word is being planted in us. So it's always been there. But I couldn't truly know what love was until I had my kids. And that's when I realized a different type of love. It wasn't the love for the streets. It wasn't the love from the gangs. It wasn't love that you get from money or any of that. It was a love that you can't explain. And that's where it started to make sense. But then you got into church more and you just wanted to be better. And by wanting to be better, that hunger of looking for it and it kind of points you to that direction for sure.
So did you come from like were your parents in the church and did they kind of go over and like read the Bible to you, or you just kind of
No way. No way, form or fashion. My mom actually had, when I was younger, uh, um, she got a Mormon Bible. I don't know where she got it from. I'm assuming they just knocked on the door and gave it to her. And I actually took that Bible with me because my a babysitter of mine at the time said she was going to take us to church. So
right.
I took that Bible to church and got in trouble at the church for having that Bible, which I didn't know there was a difference. I thought a Bible was a Bible. But that was my first time understanding that there's a difference of it. But like I said, it's always around you. It's just sometimes it's so it you take it for granted. You see what I'm saying? As you know, the people that talk to you, the people that help you out, that sometimes the teachers will say things. They're planting seeds in you, but yet you're not accepting it because right now you're actually pointing to yourselves. You're all about, man, what you think you can fix yourself, so you can fix your situations. And when you're young, you're looking for love, but you're not looking in God's love. You're looking in hey, well, my homies don't get on my ass. They're cool with me. Uh, they don't see nothing wrong with doing this type of stuff. They're actually telling you, hey, don't let that person put their hands on you. Fuck them up. You know what I'm saying? Put your hands on them, or they don't point to goodness. They justify the bad things. I guess you would say. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it starts. But that's how I see it, basically.
Yeah. You know what I could really relate to when you were saying that, all this time and years, you try to change yourself and it's so hard. Like for me, I struggled for years just, with change and everything. Like I went through that phase when I was younger too. I was a troublemaker and, I was hanging around the wrong people, selling drugs, doing all the mischief that a troublemaker gets into. And for
Yeah.
years, like I want to say for me, I kind of snapped out of it like right when I hit like 19, 20, I was like, you know what? I got tired of the whole thing. But at the same time, real change took more than, 5, 10 years. It took time because I was trying to change myself the whole time. And it just wouldn't work. Like, I mean, little increments would change here and there, but actual real change I needed God. And that's where even things such as wanting to be I've always wanted to be one of those super disciplined people. You look up to those success stories and inspired by the Steve Jobs out there, the Elon Musk,
Mhm.
Howard Hughes, and all those type of people. And you look at these people and you're like, dang, they got such a resilience and discipline that they had to them. And I always wanted that. And what's crazy is I always try to do it myself, but I could just never stick to course. Like I would fall off either days later, weeks later, or like 2 or 3 months later. And I'd be like, why can I not stay disciplined? And it wasn't until I prayed and really prayed upon it and really started leaning on God for that guidance that I finally started to obtain discipline and consistency. So I definitely get what you're saying with trying to change yourself. It's like it's impossible.
Well, you can't look at it as that goes back into the church aspects for me, is that we're not saved by works or alone. We're saved by grace. So we have to remind ourselves that we can't save ourselves. We have to rely on the grace of Jesus because Jesus is the one that did it. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
once you realize that first, you put that as the foundation, anything else is possible because it says in the Bible that he will grant you what is deep in your heart as long as it aligns with his kingdom, you know and
Right.
that is you know job wise, family wise. He'll give you anything as long as it aligns with him. So you have to focus on that itself and understand that it's not about every situation, every up, every down a is a moment now for you to talk about the test, because you can't have a testimony unless you have a test. So all the things that we've been through were to basically give us an opportunity to also relate with people that have lived the same life that we've lived or have gone through the same situation. We might not be 100% aligned with what they've been through, but you can relate to people. And that just basically gives you an opportunity to always be pointing back to him. So
Yeah.
that's what the story is in our life. We look at it as in the not getting what I want in life, but you have to understand we're not relying on him. We're relying on ourselves when we start thinking that way, because the story's not completed. He already knows it. He read the beginning He read the middle, he read the end of it. So he already knows what the ending's going to be. And sometimes we get stuck in the middle and we're like, man, I'm not where I want to be. But you don't know where that ending's going to be. You're still on chapter 11, but your book is an 87 chapter book. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You got it's in his time type situation. So that's how I see things. And I always look at is you can't be in control, only God is in control. Jesus is the one that did it all. So when it is good to focus and stay on point, because it's just like an arrow. You can't have that arrow wobbing all the way around if you're trying to hit the mark. You have to stay focused. So that is something that it is something that you, yes, try to do every day. Say this is my goal, but at the end of the day, your goal should always be to, if you put Jesus first at that goal, then everything else is going to happen as long as it's going to basically bring people to his kingdom. You see what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
is the most important thing on all things levels. So if you're doing it and God wants you to, example, like, this, me and you having this conversation, if at the end of the day it is pointing somebody to the Lord, that is the best thing possible. You see what I'm saying? For anybody's life, when it comes to jobs, relationships, always go to that level. And a lot of people, they don't want to have a whole bunch of faith on it, because then they point back to, well, what can I do to fix the situation? Well, me. And it's not about me, it's about him. You see what I'm saying? So
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I agree. I
don't let
agree.
me go left field. I'll start going on you on there. So
No, 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 you're good. So my next question is, so if right now, like, let's say you were giving advice to someone that is going through some hardships right now and they're lost in life, what would be your advice to them as far as what to do? What to do in this vulnerable moment that they're in? If they just don't know what steps to take in their life next, they're lost, they're broken, and they're hurting. What
well,
would you say to them?
my biggest thing is, there's three quotes in the Bible that I feel are the true essence of the gospel. Very simple. Romans 6:23. They look it up. It basically says that the wages of sin is death. Period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But the gift is John 3:16, 3:17. Is that he, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. And that God did not bring his Son to the world to condemn it, but to save it. So he's done it. It is finished. Okay.
Right.
Now, yes, we should always try to focus and do what's right, and focus that way, the Ten Commandments and all that. But remember Ephesians 2:9. He did it so that way no man can boast and say they did it. So if you want anything in your life to do better or focus, or you got a goal in your life that you're trying to achieve, you can't start a race if you haven't started running. And you can't start running in life unless you have the foundation. And the strongest foundation is the rock, which is Jesus. Everything else that you try to make without Jesus is being made on sand, and it will easily fall apart because you put your faith in yourself. The two things that I remind myself is that, um, I say it a lot, where I'm basically, my thoughts are not his thoughts, my ways are not his ways. Anytime I'm having issues, those are the two things I tell myself daily, and I always remember those three phrases in the Bible.
So,
Those are the things you can do.
so you would pretty much you would guide them to the foundation is what you're basically saying. You would tell them the first steps is to follow in Jesus.
Yes, because you have to have a relationship with him before you can have a relationship in anything else. That is in work, relationship with your women, relationship with your kids. You got to have a relationship with the one that saves you.
Now, this kind of segues into something that I want to talk to you about too, because I do, talk to some of my, friends that I used to hang around with, and sometimes they're going through stuff, and I try to guide them to, invite them to church with me, and they a lot of times they don't come, or they have an excuse of, well, people at church, they have a very, I guess, a look at them like, oh, they go to church, but they're, in real life, when they're not in church, they're not as holy as they act. So, what would you say to someone who wants God but doesn't trust the church and the people at the church? Because I've even been there before where I've realized, like, before I even found God, that was something that was like, that I would think sometimes. I'm like, how could I go there and they're so hypocritical, and it made me like not even want to go at a certain time. But then I realized it's not about the people, it's about God, and but what would you say to them, someone that wants God but doesn't trust church?
Well, first off, just know it's not your place to save anybody. So you can't save anybody. All you can do is plant a seed in them, and
Right.
God would water it in them. You can pray for your friends, you can invite them into church, but if they're not ready to come, they'll just know you planted the seed in them, and it will grow when it's ready on God's time for sure. Okay. But every time you see them, it doesn't hurt to keep planting that seed. Keep saying, hey, because that one day that you don't think about saying, hey, come to church, they might be like, you know what, I'm gonna take you up on that. So always know that you're never the savior, that Jesus is the savior, for
Right.
one. For two, we don't put our trust in man. We don't put our trust in the church. We put our trust in the Lord, and He's the one that saves. The church, sometimes the church is even preaching false doctrine. They preach in works. They tell you to clean yourself up and then come to church. God didn't tell you to do that. God wants your heart. God wants your mind and your soul. He is the Savior. So I say that you don't have to go to a church to find God. You can be in the room by yourself and have that moment and just pray to Him. He hears those that seek Him. So going to church is just being around those that are equal minded as you. Okay. We're all talking about the Lord. We're all there to praise Him. And if you're going to a church and you feel like you're being judged at that church, well, then that church needs to look within themselves. Because the number one thing that Jesus says is to love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By doing this, they will know that you are my disciples. And if a church is not showing love and they're saying, well, you got to do this, you need to do this, then they're not doing what is his word. Y'all are going by the works. Y'all are living by, well, you got to act this way. You got to dress this way. No. Jesus sat there with prostitutes. He sat there with people. He hung out with the forgotten. And that's the thing where I'm with them 100%. I don't believe in religion as in one is better than the other. I think that is what separates us. That is a work of the devil because at the end of the day, Jesus is the truth. As long as you're focusing on that, you can go at home, go to YouTube, go to Google. You can pull up stuff and listen to sermons. And the truth is the truth. But remember, the truth is always the word because the word never changes. Once you start listening to man in the churches, and then you're taking away from God and you're making that church your God. You're making the people around you the God, and that's not why you're going there. You're going there to worship the Lord. So you're basically just going to basically, in my opinion, to fellowship. You see what I'm saying? So that way you can grow. It's just like if you're a plant, you want water. It is a place that you can go to get watered. You see what I'm saying? And if the Lord is there, that water is going to fill you and it's going to make you grow. That's why they say uh your fruits, the fruits is us. We're that fruit and the seed is inside of us. When we go there and we're listening to the word, it is us just being sprinkled with the water that makes us grow. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but you can do that at home. You can do that like us. It says when two or more are gathered in my name, my presence is there. So it doesn't mean that you have to go to a building and this and that. You, after church, going to your homies, chopping it up after a barbecue, bringing up the word and having conversations and even debating about it. You're planting the seed in that person. That is all we are called to do. Outside of that, Jesus does everything else. He saves them. He breaks them down. He'll get into their mind and their heart to where you're like, man, I want what he has. You see what I'm saying? So That's just how I feel about it. That's how I go. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right. No, and that was a really good answer. So why do you believe men are why do you believe men are lost today and how faith restores direction?
Why are men lost today?
Yes.
Man, I'm gonna hurt some people's feelings with this one, man. The answer. Look, okay, let me make this into a 2 point. Okay, you said why are men lost, and what was the other one?
And how faith restores direction.
Number one, again, I'm gonna hurt some people's feelings, but a man can't stand boldly and say what a man and a woman is nowadays. We have to be politically correct, and that is not being boldly in your faith.
Right.
Okay, so that's my first get go. Is that we are more geared nowadays to people's feelings. We don't want to be offended. We don't want to hurt their feelings. Truth is bold. Truth is black or white. There's no gray in there. It's either right or it's wrong. Okay. And when it comes to religion, that's, of course, there are a lot of religions out there. But again, this is my opinion. Jesus is the truth, the light, and the way. And if you look deep enough into it, we are not putting him first in everything. We feel that we have the power to fix things. We have the power to do, um, you know, I can do it. Me, him, which should be the first thing on your mind when you wake up. Being woke up in the morning is a blessing because people don't get to see tomorrow. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's where I think a lot of men today, or they take it as it's not manly to be godly. It's not manly to want to have that a relationship because that should be your first relationship before you have a relationship with your woman, anything with your children. You should have that relationship with the Lord first. Because at the end of the day, when we all go there, when we all go to heaven, my wife, my children are no longer my wife and my children. They're my brothers and sisters in Christ. We are all God's children. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we lose that faith aspect of it. And when I talk about the faith idea, think of it this way, okay? You know when you were a child and Santa, it was Christmas time,
Yeah.
nobody could tell you that Santa wasn't real. You see what I'm saying? You 100% was like, man, I'm gonna put this cookie out. I'm gonna get that milk. Santa is coming. Children believe it so hardly. As adults, we lose that innocence. That's why in the Bible it always points us as his children because we should have that faith in him that he has it all. But the golden rule that we all have heard, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Well, that's how we feel about our faith. That's why it's so hard for us to believe that he has it all. And we start focusing on, man, I got to do this, I got to do that, and we put so much burden and all this on our backs. That's where we start hearing those voices that are basically saying, "Oh man, you can't do this. You got to try harder. You got to push harder." Which you have to remember first off, the birds, God feeds the birds. He's going to take care of you. You might have gone through ups and downs in your life, but you have to look at it as, hey, he's always been there. He will always be there. You see what I'm saying? It's the faith thing. You have to start with that first. But look at how the world is turning truth. What is truth? It's your truth. It's my truth. Everybody has their own truth, but the Bible does not change. You know what I'm saying? And that's where a lot of people have their issues is they're not willing to read what it says and then they're just like, well, yeah, but I think it means this or I think it means that. You kind of need to look at it says it very plainly. You know what I'm saying? But again, it's a relationship issue. It's a walk. There's no right or wrong when it comes to the relationship aspect. I believe that you should talk to him like we're talking now. When you have something burden on your heart, when you're having dramas, when you're having issues, you should be able to be in your room, be in the car, driving on traffic, wherever you have that moment, we should have those conversations with him. And I think that's the biggest issue is men forget that they are the head of the household. Women are the backbone. They keep everything going. But children are the heart of the family. You see what I'm saying? And everybody's so big on like, well, we don't have our, we don't have roles. We 50-50. Well, if that's the case, then why is somebody's breaking in the house? I'm the one that's got to get up. You heard the noise. Get up. Hey, we 50-50 here, girl. Go save him. No, I wouldn't say, I'm trying to think of the best word to put it, but everybody has a role in your life. Okay, everybody has something that you have to do, and what it boils down to is we all have to look for that thing that's missing in our hearts. That thing that gets you going every day is Jesus. And once you feel that in your heart, that's when you find your purpose. That's when life starts making sense and you're like, "Oh." And then whatever that if it's music that drives you, use that music to glorify his word. If taking, like you doing pictures and talking to people is your thing, if you're using that gift to glorify him in some way, watch you blow up. He will use you to glorify him. But if you're using it to glorify yourself or glorify the evil, but don't get me wrong, I believe that the devil also will give you everything you want. You see what I'm saying? He'll give you money, he'll give you fame, but at the end of the day, when you're in your room by yourself,
It'll
you
come as,
don't you
yeah,
don't feel fulfilled. You don't feel filled. You're like, man, it's like nothing is ever enough for you.
it'll
But
come at a price. Would
when
it?
you have Christ in your heart, you could have nothing but a peanut butter jelly sandwich and a candle as the light, and you feel like you got everything. You might not be happy at this point, but your faith makes you believe that things will get better. You see what I'm saying? So it has to start with that, in my opinion. Again, some people might say no, but I found that once you put that as your rock, as the stone that starts everything, everything turns into two things. Either it's a lesson or it's a blessing. If you're not being blessed at your moment, then you need to slow down and you need to ask yourself, what is my lesson? What is going on in my world, in my life right now that I can learn from? Because whatever is going on, I'm going to learn from it, but I'm going to move on. You see what I'm saying? And
Right.
that love of Christ will give you that opportunity to see that there is something at the end. You see, but when you don't have him in there, man, you're just like, man, life sucks right now. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. You don't see that, oh, okay, I'm already saved. He's done it. It is finished. Okay.
No, 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 no. Like, absolutely. Next question that I want to go into. What do you think the dangers of living without a moral anchor? What do you think that, like, say if you were giving advice to your children right now, what kind of advice do you give them about morals and having a moral anchor? And what's the dangers of not having a moral anchor?
Well, not having morals is, I mean, who has the definition of what's good morals and bad morals? It goes back to being. It has to go. That goes back to you got to put Jesus first
Right.
because the Ten Commandments are basically the idea of being Christ-like. Those are the idea of good morals. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not do this. Thou shalt respect. You see what I'm saying? That is the foundation. So yeah, I tell my kids very, very bluntly, like, you know, he is the answer. He's the answer for everything. Even that question there. You see what I'm saying? It will always point back to Jesus, to where, we all fall short. If you look at the the Ten Commandments are there to prove to us that we're all going to fall short when it comes to the moral level. We've all lied. We've all probably disrespected our parents somehow. We've all done these things. That's why, it's good to have the law because it shows that we are un we are unable to fulfill the law. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, it does it points back to the Lord. That's how, I mean, that's the best way to say it right there is, why do we have to have morals? Because if not, what is good and evil? You know what I'm saying? You don't even look at it in that manner. But by you having morals, it shows you that there is a right and wrong. It points to a heaven and hell. It points to God and the devil. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's how I see it.
So what's your view? We're gonna switch it up a little bit, and we're
Go
gonna
ahead.
talk about emotional wounds and healing.
Uh-huh.
When it comes to heartbreak and how it's reshaped you, what are your views on that, or even when it comes down to forgiveness when it feels undeserved?
Well, first off, you have to forgive to be forgiven. Period. You can't ask somebody to forgive you if you can't ask again. Everything I do is based on religion, okay? Everything. So even that story or that question, I can't ask the Lord to forgive me for the worst things that I've done if I'm not willing to forgive those that have done me wrong. You know what I'm saying? So that by itself makes me have to forgive them because again, I want to be Christ-like. I want him to be in me and for that to happen, for him to have forgiven me when I don't deserve it, they don't deserve my forgiveness either, but I'm doing it for me. I'm not doing it for them. If they want to accept it, that's fine. But you have to forgive people only on the basis that you are releasing them of having that over you. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Um, Heartbreak wise, I'm about to say I'm more of the heartbreaker, man.
Yeah.
I
Now,
don't
now,
know.
have you been hurt in that aspect though, as far as where your heart has,
I mean, I do, but I'm at again, I'm older now, but at the time of me being young and being dumb and my heart being broken, I got angry and I would just, I would get even, and I would be hateful on that level, which doesn't do anything but put more wood on the fire, you know, because of of nothing comes out of evil. Nothing comes good out of that. All you're doing is you're pushing your blessings farther and farther away by doing that. But if you forgive that person, and then again, the heartbreak thing goes back to lessons or blessings. Okay. Yeah, my heart's broken right now, but what is the lesson in this? Because I'm not getting blessed. My heart's broken. You see what I'm saying? I'm hurt. I'm not happy. But then you have to stop and you have to wonder, okay, what is the lesson in this? Sometimes it's because you're making that person an idol when God says, I want no idols above me. You see what I'm saying? That could be an issue. It could have been that maybe God knows the end of your story and that person wasn't supposed to be in your story. They were only supposed to be in a chapter of it. Everything happens for a reason, but we as people believe that we control the outcome. We don't. Okay? Everything and that goes back to you having to truly have faith in him and submitting to him and his will. His will might not be your will. You know what I'm saying? My
right,
will is I wanted to be with this person and be happy and this and that. Well, if that was the case, they will come back. But maybe for this season, the Lord wants something make you maybe for you to focus more on Him. Example, like Paul had the thorn in his side. The Lord could have taken that thorn out all the time, anytime, snapped his finger, it could have been gone. But he didn't do that because he knew if he took that thorn out, then I lose you. It's like if you want $1 million, God can snap his fingers right now. But then guess what? I might lose you because you got $1 million. You won't come calling to me when you're hurting. You won't call to me when you need to because you feel like now you're the answer. I got everything. I got money. That's why everything goes to that. You see what I'm
right.
saying?
All right, so let's just jump back into this. So, is there a season that you ever wanted to quit but didn't?
Yeah.
What did that look like, and what was going on in your life, and what kept you from quitting?
Well, I was again. I'm a man of faith. I believe in the Lord, but uh, before I believe what I am now, I was deeply into the works aspect. I believed I had to stop everything. I had to do everything. And I lived my life with that up down feeling like one day I'm happy, one day I'm sad. But, I'll fake it to make it. But at one point, I had to. My situation with me and my ex. We separated after 20 years because she was doing drugs, and uh, I always told myself I would never leave my family, but I had to make that choice. I had to, because the circumstances were getting dangerous and were not going the way it should be. So I felt as a failure and I felt like I did the wrong thing. So at that moment, my faith was bothering me because, again, I believed in works. I believed that I had to do this and I had to do that. So at that moment, yeah, I felt like a failure. I felt like, damn, I all this was in vain, But then I had to start getting back into the word, and somebody that broke it open to me to where it was one of those wow moments. Like I mentioned to you before, the Johnny Chang uh preacher that's on the internet. When he basically opened my mind to the idea of I'm literally putting it on me and taking away what he did. That is where it blew my mind to where, oh, you know, I'm not putting my faith 100% in him. I'm putting it in myself. And
Right.
that kind of renewed me to go back to, okay, I get it now. You see what I'm saying? Because, we all think we're good people and we think we're doing what's right, but then we start realizing, what did we put as gods? We put ourselves as gods. We put our own actions and what we could accomplish. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, that was, of course, I've been in jail. Those times suck. Don't get me wrong. But that I personally feel like when I felt like I was lost with my relationship with him, that was my lowest because once I got that back to where I felt like I didn't truly try, I knew of God, I knew of his ways, I knew of his love, but I didn't have a relationship with him. I put my family first, I put my kids first, I put my job first, and one day I'm happy, one day I'm sad. One day I'm happy, one day I'm sad. And it literally took God to shake up my world and say, "Hey, again, put that thorn in my side so that way I would draw to him." And that's when I realized, oh, okay, I need to refocus. Again, that goes back to being focused. Sometimes you feel like you're being focused, you feel like you're doing things right. Sometimes you got to put the brakes on things and get back to the basics. You know what I'm saying? So
So the
that's
fact that he shook you up again and kind of brought you back to him, how has that changed your life from that point on to today? Like, is it
Well, for one, I realize that it is finished. That I'm forgiven from my sins, my prior sins, my now sins, and my sins in the future. So it doesn't give me the right to sit here and do bad things by no means. I hate when people say that. But that relationship aspect has has fulfilled my heart. That piece of my heart that most people say, man, there's something missing that I don't know how to fill it, that has been fulfilled by me not only getting more into my word, because the more I read the word and I know that what it's pointing at is that Jesus did something that I couldn't do for myself, no matter how hard I tried. The best way to give an analogy, and I use this with my son, okay, say you're 35 years old right now, okay, and you just now found Jesus. And if you lived perfect from now till the day you die, when you still go to heaven and you have to give that report on your life, you're still not going to be 100% because we're born into sin. Sin is not a thing. It is not the things that we do. Even though those are sinful things, sin, we're born into it. You know what I'm saying? And once I realized that it wasn't the gang banging, it wasn't the shooting at people, it wasn't the drugs and all the in and out of jails and all that. Those things were sinful things. But even if I didn't do those things, I was still a sinner. You see what I'm saying? And once I got that religious aspect of it always points to Jesus, that is where my mind got to. It's not about what I do, it's about what he's already done. And once I realized 100%, the biggest story that blows my mind is, and you can pull it up on YouTube. It's called because the man on the cross said I could. Okay. That is the best sermon that I've ever heard because he's basically saying that the guy on the cross next to Jesus was kind of like he was the first guy to make it to heaven. Okay. And imagine what the angels did when they saw him. So what do you know about this? What do you know about that? They probably questioned him. I don't want to give it away too much, but pull that up. And that's the idea that think about it.
Interesting. I need to check out that video. What is it called?
Uh the man on the cross said I could.
Okay. I'm gonna have to check that out. I like listening to different videos and stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
Um, what did you have to let go of before your life made sense?
Pride. I had to I had to let go of my worldly ways because and don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect by no means. Okay. I'm not gonna sit here and act like, oh, I'm a holy roly and uh I'm I'm greater than anybody because I'm not. Okay. I'm still on my walk, my journey. Everybody, you do things that you don't even know that you're doing. You know, like I might have disrespected somebody and didn't even know I disrespected them, you know. So those types of things I had to first off, of course, I had to quit gangbanging. That was my first thing. I had to stop thinking that that was love and realize that I was the problem. I didn't sit here and blame society. I didn't blame my parents. I didn't blame anybody else, but point the finger to myself first. That was the first thing I had to come to and say that all the stuff that you did when you were younger, you did it. Period. Okay. Take accountability for it. And then once there might have been reasonings on why I did what I did, but it doesn't get past the fact that I did it. Okay. Outside of that, then you have to realize, what am I standing for? Am I standing for righteousness or am I standing for things that, especially once you have children, would you want your children to do these things? And a lot of the things that I was doing, I would never, I look at my children and be like, there's no way I was doing that at 8, 9, 10, 12 years old. You know, my children are innocent compared to what I was. So though that mindset of the street mentality, the justification because, oh, well, I feel some type of way. The feelings is not what you have to get into. That goes back to, like I said, I got more into the church and realized that, hey, this is a reasoning, what I'm saying? Does it make you it's a journey basically, but I had to change my mentality on, you know, you always hear hurt people, and then that's okay. It's not okay. It's got to stop somewhere, you
Right,
know.
right. And it's like you said too, with accountability. I'm really, really, really big on accountability because I think there's no other way to learn. Because if you're not accountable for, say whatever it is that you went through, like in the past, like same with me, just I used to blame my sister's boyfriend at the time that I used to hang around with, and I used to blame because he was 5, 6 years older than me at the time, and I used to always blame him and be like, well, if I never met him or nothing like that, I would have never went through those things and been introduced to that stuff. But then again, I had a mind too. I could have easily said no, I don't want to do that. And then at the same time, I had a lot of resentment for him for like years. And then someone told me one day he was only showing you what he knew. That was all he knew at the time. And you can't just hate someone for that because that's probably just all he knew, you know?
Well, look at it this way too. It's already written that that was going to happen regardless. Like, yeah, you might have been influenced to do what you consider bad things, but God uses those things for His glory. So now those bad things that you went through, you can talk to somebody and not just be talking from, oh, I think that's bad. No, I've lived it. I'm a testimony. So just like me saying, well, the hood didn't get me or this and that. No, I wanted to do those things, but once I realized, okay, everything that I went through, it basically is because God put you in those I would call them situations because one, he knows you're strong enough to come out of it. Okay. Now, of course, some people don't come out of it because unfortunately they never looked for the Lord. But God put you in every situation. that you can use for His glory. You see what
Right,
I'm
right.
saying? So I truly believe that all the bad things that we went through, I'm sorry, people hitting my phone up. I truly believe all the things that we go through, there is a light. It's just like a quarter. A quarter has a head and a tail. The bad situation that you were in, you have a way to get out of it. You know what I'm saying? If you want to. But let's be honest, a lot of us don't want to. And it puts us into that situation to where that's a choice. Again, that was our choice. But how many times have you had that voice either telling you, "Hey, don't go do that," or you had that mom that was like, "Hey, I don't like that guy," or you had the family member that says, "Hey, y'all are going to do this wrong." Like we hear those voices told all the time, but we're always so like, "Yeah, I know better. I know what I'm doing." And it's not until later on in life that you realize, "Damn, I didn't know anything." You know, we always think we know something till we realize that we don't know anything. That's when we truly know that we know something. You know what
Oh
I'm saying?
man, yeah, absolutely. It took me years to realize a lot of certain things. And sometimes I have this one friend recently that I work with, and she asked me, I talk about some of like the past and certain situations and all this stuff. She was like, "Do you ever regret any of the past?" And I thought about it and I was like, not really, because at the end of the day, I guess I wouldn't have become who I am today. And it took those, yeah, and it took going through all that kind of stuff to realize and become who I am, because I'm really, happy with the progress that I've had over the years and who I am. And it took time to build this type of character. And like, I'm just like, yeah, I'm not perfect. I'm still learning to this day and I'm still critiquing course. I constantly try to audit myself and, like, I journal every night. One thing to do, I journal, and even sometimes I'll write down like, what am I doing wrong? What do I need to fix? And I'll write it down, and it just helps me kind of hold myself accountable, if that makes sense. But
Well, remember for one that there's only one person that was perfect. Only one. His name's Jesus, and they still killed him. So nobody's ever going to be perfect. There's no we can't we can strive to try to be perfect, but we're not. We're going to fall short every day. Every day. That's why he says you got to renew your mind every day. You got to pick up your cross daily. You see what I'm saying? Every day's a gift, and we have to come at it with that mentality that what am I going to do today to glorify him? So if it's going to work, if you're a janitor, be the best damn janitor you are. But you never know. Somebody might walk in that bathroom one day while you're cleaning it, crying their hearts out. And that's your opportunity to just plant that seed. You're not a savior, but you can plant that seed. If
right,
you're like what you do, you know what I'm saying? You do it to the best of your ability every day, but knowing that at the end of the light, you're doing it for a reason. It's your love, it's what you love to do. But are you using your platform for him? Are you using it to, like you say, focus people to see what's inside their hearts, what's inside their lives, and we are everybody's crying out for something. Even those that act like they say, "Oh, I got everything." You do, but when they're at home by themselves in their room, are they really 100%? Most people aren't. That's
right.
when you have to be true to yourself when you're by yourself. And that's where you should have those real deep conversations like what is it all for? You know what I'm saying? We all have those questions. Why is all this here? But at the same time, you can't go down that rabbit hole because you have to understand that he only lets us know what we can handle. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but
Nah, that's true. That is true. And a lot of that stuff. I'm just kind of like, I'm still learning. I'm still a student. I think we're all just continuous students in life, and just it's gonna just keep going. But
every day you're learning something until you die. Let's be honest. That's when you got, hey, that's the true test because when we die, we'll find out, hey, was I doing the right? Was
yep,
I right or wrong? Because until we die, nobody can be 100% sure that everything that I'm saying is truth. It's faith. We live by faith. We don't live by knowledge. That's not what it's called. It's called faith for a reason. It's just like having on a parachute. I have faith that it's going to open. I don't know until I get out the plane and I pull that cord. You see what I'm saying? So that's how I feel on that one, 100%.
so what would you say right now, what's one thing that you would tell your younger self right now if you had a chance? hypothetically, time machine, and you only had 5 minutes or so with your younger self, what's something that comes to mind that you think would have really affected you and changed? Like, is there anything specific that comes to mind?
I was about to say the first thing I was going to say is invest in Bitcoin. Man, oh
Good one,
man.
right?
Hey man, hey, invest in Apple and man, put your money. Hey, don't be spending money on the dumb stuff. Yeah, that would be my first thing I would tell my younger self. But um, honestly, I wouldn't really want to tell myself anything because just like you said earlier, what I went through made me, and that's why I'm able to talk to people and I relate to them on some things. Now again, like what makes you who you are is the trials and tribulations that you went through. So I wouldn't want to change anything. I would probably tell myself to be, for one, be a kid a lot longer because you're a kid for such a short time. You're an adult for a very long time.
Right.
So don't rush being a kid. And we grew up in that age where, man, we were going to parties and stealing cars and doing all this dumb stuff in elementary, you know. So you're doing bad things in junior high. We're acting bad at that age when I should have been going to the prom. I should have been going to dances. I should be going to football games on the weekends, and
Isn't it
enjoying
crazy? It's
those those
crazy.
those moments. I mean, it's that those are the things that are important. Like when I sit and talk about things with people with that, even nowadays, like my kids, they went to football games and they went to dances and they had their own issues too. I'm not going to sit here, they're not angels, but I tried to make sure they did those things as much as possible because those are your memories. You don't want to have memories of, oh man, we were doing shootings and we were fighting people at the blocks and we were because when you really look back on it, you're gonna if you're being honest with yourself, you start to realize that man, I was the problem, not only to myself but to my community. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
and those things I have regret on, those things that I feel bad about. But the people I hurt that you can't get forgiveness from, those types of things. I mean, that's why I changed. Like let me tell you a story, okay? And it's a quick one. I remember one time that I was with this guy, right? And I ain't gonna lie, I went over there because he owed me money. So I went over to go collect a little money he owed me, and I'm sitting in a room with three other guys. And while I'm sitting there and I'm sitting here talking with this guy went to go get the money he owed me from the ATM. Another guy that was there, he looked familiar, and I was like, man, I'm just chilling with them, smoking and whatever. And I'm like, man, do I know you from somewhere? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, from where? And he's like, man, I was at the bus stop and me and one of my friends, he said my friend's name, walked up on him, tapped him on the shoulder and put a gun on him and was like, what you got? And here I am sitting right in front of this guy and I don't even remember him, but yet he remembered me. So, but at the time, I was different. Of course, what I needed the money for was not drug related or anything like that. He just owed me the money. So I was there on a whole nother level, but this guy remembered me as that asshole that I was when I was younger. You see what I'm saying?
Right, right.
And those things humble me now because, I'm not that person no more. Don't get me wrong. I still got that asshole in me sometimes that I have to renew myself when I get mad or anything. Those are the thoughts that I say, hey, your thoughts are not my thoughts. Your ways are not my ways. I tell myself daily because those are the things that keep you focused. And like I said, that Johnny Chain guy breaks down the Bible to the point where it makes a lot of sense to where it's like, oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just like trying to read it and trying to get it, you're like, I don't understand it. This breaks it down, which we all should have somebody that we can talk to that helps us because again, we're all supposed to be brothers and sisters. We're all supposed to love one another. And that's where people don't do it. You see what I'm saying? They're scared to ask for that.
Yeah, and it's crazy like how you were saying when you think back to like the times that we grew up, you know, it's crazy how young we were doing certain things. And because I got some stories of myself, I don't want to like take up the whole videos telling the
Oh,
stories
I
and
get
stuff
you.
right now, but I got some crazy stories myself, and I think about that. And even when, I got friends from all different age ranges, from 20s to 30s, 40s, 50s. So I got all different types of friends. And when I'm telling
Oh
my
yeah,
20-year-old friends about some of these stories, sometimes they're probably like, I don't believe this guy been through this. And it's like, no,
yeah,
it was crazy. Maybe it was just different times, back then, and it's also, yeah, it just trips me out. And it's like you said, I think it's really good to have someone too, like you said, like that guy, Johnny, what's his name?
Johnny Chang.
Johnny Chang. I'm gonna check his workout. And
Yeah,
I was very fortunate to come across someone that's like that, who was like a year older than me, and his name was Brock Jones. And he helped explain a lot of stuff to me. And maybe he did it really well because he spoke it maybe in my language and my the way I needed to hear it, and the way he broke it down was so real. And yeah,
yeah.
and I would go to him for advice, for life advice all the time. And he was a very amazing guy. Even when it came down to me wanting to study the Bible, I struggled with some of it. And, he would meet me at coffee shops and be like, let me show you, some easy ways. And he would break it down on how to do that. Unfortunately, he
Mhm.
passed earlier this past year. I want to say it's probably been about 8 or 9 months ago when he passed. Uh, um, I don't know if it's been that long, but it's around there. And it was crazy because when he passed, it was a hard time for me because he was like one of the only people that was like my age, like he was like a year older, like I said, that I could go to and talk about life on that kind of level, and they would give me like good, solid, non-biased advice that was,
Some
and he was a
feedback.
godly man. He was a very, like, he went to different churches all the time and spoke at different churches. And man, talking to him, I definitely miss, because and I really think everyone needs someone like that in their life to kind of, just to even talk about life. It's refreshing to talk about life. Most people nowadays don't just, when I met him, his first things he did, he talked to me, introduced himself, and he was like, "Hey, would you like to get a coffee sometime and just talk about life?" And that was refreshing. I ain't never had a friend out of all those years just sit down and be like, "Hey, you want to just, go grab a coffee and talk about life?"
Well, it's always good to have somebody that's going to ground base you, put you on that level. And like you said, he talked your language. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I say Johnny made a lot of sense to me because he's an ex-gang member. He went to prison. He was almost the exact lifestyle. So when he talks, he's talking my language, he's talking to me. But that goes back to why we say we wouldn't change who we are as a kid because that gave us our ability to talk to somebody that when you talk to somebody, they might, they're going to understand you. Like they're going to be like, man, this, I don't know why, but this guy just clicks to me for some reason. You see what I'm saying? And it's not like they're glorifying you because if that's the case, then they're wrong. They should never idol you. But if they're using you as I always like to call a farmer because that's what we are. We're farmers. We're planting seeds. If that's what you're doing, is your God is using you as the farmer to plant the seed in Him, then be that person. You see what I'm saying? That's what we're called to do. So yeah, and I know I do it to a lot of friends because I used to tell a lot of the youngster homies, they're a little older now, that hey, this is what it is. I'm just basically I would treat them how I wanted to be treated when I was younger because my big homies, some of them looked out for me, some of them used me because they knew I was young and dumb and I was trying to be down for the hood, but they would be the first ones that put you into bad things. But the few that were actually like, hey, Richard, you're better than this, man. There's actually something in you that you're going to do good. Those are the people you want around you, not the ones that just because they feed your ego or they feed, they tell you yes, they agree with what you say. It's good to even be around people that disagree with you, sometimes and point you in the right way because sometimes we have to be told, hey, dog, you're wrong. What you did or what you said there was wrong, and you have to be able to be taught. There's no there's no, you don't get so old to where you can't be taught anything no more, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's crazy for me. I used to hate reading as a kid, right? I did not like school. It was not my thing. It's not that I couldn't read. I just didn't like it because I just wasn't maybe interested in the stories or books that they would present to me at school. But it wasn't until I think I turned 24 or 25 um I started reading, but I started reading books on stuff that I was, I guess, interested in at the time, like like the self-development books, how
Mhm.
to get rich books, the psychology books and all that kind of stuff. And it's crazy because now, I mean, shoot, you know, I've read so many books throughout the years, Richard, and it's crazy on how much wisdom you could get from just reading books from, philosophers or great thinkers of the past. They may be gone, but their literature is still here. What's your thoughts on that? Do you read any books, or is that just not really an avenue you kind of went down with reading?
Well, I have a question. Have you read the Bible?
The Bible, I haven't read it all the way through, and that's one that I do definitely need to jump into.
That is the number one thing you should read because it is the blueprint of what life is in general. Everything
Right.
that those guys that you talked about, they their bases on everything that they're pointing to bases on that. So that's how I feel about reading. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I'm more into watching movies and videos and because I'm a visual type of person. Now don't get me wrong, I'm just like you. If I'm into it, oh man, I could what I'm saying? Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not just a churchy guy. I used to love anything about mobsters or gangsters, the old Scarface and all those things. Man, I could read anything about them. I knew everything about Al Capone. I'm like, man, this and that and all that. Those things were interesting to me. The Western stuff, like the Billy the Kids and the outlaw books, man, I could read them like anything. When I was a little kid, I'll never forget one of the first whoopings I got was I had a Ninja Turtle comic book that I could read forwards and backwards. I knew every word, I knew everything about it, but I memorized it all because I had a tape and I played the tape so I could memorize the words in it. But then when my stepdad gave me the newspaper and told me to read the newspaper, I was like, uh, and he whooped my ass over it. So that kind of got me to where I was just like, if it's not interesting, I can see why reading would be boring, especially nowadays. You see what I'm saying? Where you got all the visuals, the videos, and everything else. But I think that reading is good for you just because, again, it goes back to knowledge, but also sometimes too much knowledge. You always hear the saying, man, you're so smart, you're stupid. You know, I do believe that there are some people that they're so smart, they're really dumb. You have to have a little bit of both. You got to have street smarts, basic smarts, and then you got to have some intelligence.
Yeah.
But just because you have all that intelligence doesn't mean that you're that. Because man, let's be honest, there's some dumb people out there that have degrees.
Yeah. No, actually, it's crazy because I've read so many like psychology books, human behavior, neuroscience books, and all that stuff. And I've read so many that now I self-analyze so much, or I may analyze a situation so much now just because I know so much with these books that sometimes it does hinder certain things for me. So I know what you mean. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Sometimes I'm too practical, and I guess that's, are too, I try to be too logical with things. So when sometimes you just got to let things flow.
Now I will say I read a lot about like the Apostle Paul. I find that stuff amazing now. Like ever since I got that fire in me with the church, man, it's like I can't get enough of that type of stuff. Like I'll read any little type of thing, but I don't take it as, oh, it is there's only one word. It's the Bible. That's why I said, have you read the Bible first? Because that's the one thing that he says does not change. But anything that can grow my faith in that level, I will get different perspectives and listen to what they have to say. But that's why he also tells you to know my word. Because if you don't know truth, then you don't know when somebody else is telling you the truth. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
No, no, no. You're absolutely right. That's a book that it's sad to say out of all the books I've read, and I have not read through the entire Bible and stuff. And there's
well,
I,
I'll say this. The first time you read it, just read it to accept it. Okay. The second time you read it, try to find Jesus in every story. And then once you do it that way, it will unlock the Bible in a manner that you're just like, wow. Just like example, like the very beginning of the Bible where it says where when God started the world, that the light was with him and he was with the light. He's talking about Jesus from the very beginning of the Bible. And when you start thinking of it and actually unlocking it that way, it's the only book that you can read over and over and over and over and over again. And every time you read it, you're going to find something unlocked because you're growing in your faith to the level of man. And it's just more, it's like any of those books that you just mentioned. If you read them 3 or 4 times, you pretty much got them. You got to memorize. They're not gonna. There's nothing else you're gonna unlock. You see what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
just one of those things. Like, okay, I've mastered this book. It's out the way. You can never do that with the Bible. I don't care how many times you read it. It will always speak to your heart and your soul because it is literally the book of Lord Himself. He's literally every time you first time you read it to accept it, just like you would any of those books you just said. I read it. I don't really understand what all this stuff means, but I'm just going to read it to get through it. And then after you did that, read it again. And then this time, read it in the idea of, okay, where is Jesus in every story? And he'll talk to you and it will show you. And like I said, that right there is the one book that I can say that you can read every time you look at it. There's always a different perspective, and some people's perspectives not might be wrong. But if me and you are having a conversation about that, you see what I'm saying? It opens up. I've sat here and talked for hours with people about scriptures that I've read millions of times. But we start thinking about it. But it's as long as it's in a good, positive point in the Christ way, that's what you're supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? Because you're building your faith. So
Yeah,
that,
no,
that
I'm
that's
glad you
how I
mentioned
think
that.
about
Yeah, no, I'm
it.
glad you mentioned that because that's something I have been telling myself constantly that that's a book that I need to pick up, and that kind of just brings more inspiration to me to want to just I need to take action and open up that book. So it's
Take 15 minutes out of the day and read a couple of scriptures. Get the Bible app on your phone to where you don't even have to read it. It'll read it itself to you. So while you're in the shower or you're doing what you do to get ready for the day, you just push the play button instead of listening to music for that day. Take that 15 minutes that you're getting dressed or whatever, or you're in the best thing because you have children is when you're in the car and you're driving them to school. Okay, kids, hey, today's day, guess what? We're gonna start where we were last time and push play and play it on the radio because not only are you helping your own soul, but you're planting the seeds in your children.
yeah,
And nothing's better in this world than giving your children the word because that you're literally putting them on the foundation of truth that that's the things we didn't have. I don't know about you yourself, but I didn't have the foundation of church. I know it was around me, but I can just imagine what could if I banged for the Lord like I banged for the streets, man, I could have been one of them pastors out here talking to everybody like, come to Jesus. So you're doing when you do those things, you're putting a foundation of the word,
yeah,
and that's like I said, that's the easiest thing. I'm gonna be honest, that's what I do. And I'm not even through the Bible. I'm trying to do the Bible, because like Johnny says, he's read it 26 times. I've read the Bible, but not consistently through the whole thing until recently, to where I'm like, okay, now I see it differently because every story, when I'm looking at it as where's Jesus in this story, it's like, wow, man, I didn't even think of it this way, and it's beyond amazing. I mean, when I say that, that's the best book out there, out
yeah.
there.
No, no, I agree. And I got the Bible app and I was listening to the audio of the Proverbs the other day, and I like it too because there's different translations too on there. So it's yeah, so no, that's something I'm definitely do. But so we only got a few more minutes here on this video.
Okay.
Yeah, so what I want to do is, I just want to thank you for being a guest and coming on here and talking and giving us some wisdom and just having this conversation. I would love to have you on here again at some point if you're interested. It was a lot of fun.
Anytime, big dog. Hey, and I wish you nothing but the best. Like what you're doing. You know how I feel about you, big dog. I'm proud of what you do. Talk about you all the time. But like I say, the main thing that we need to do, number one, is know, hey, without Jesus, nothing else is impossible. But with Jesus, anything's possible. So
Absolutely.
focus on Jesus always, you know. And I'm proud of you, big dog. Like I say, you're gonna use your platform for His glory, and He's gonna shine on you and your family, and you guys are gonna be a blessing. But remember,
Oh,
it's all for Him, big dog. It's all for Him, you
yes.
know.
Yeah. And I like, I really appreciate you, and I'm proud of you. We both come a very long way because I've known you for quite sometimes in Silverleaf. So, I mean,
Man, we don't say that. We don't say that on the internet, though. We don't talk about the leave on the leave.
right.
There
I
might
just
be
broke
people
the
out there
code.
still
I
here.
just broke the code. People are going to start looking it up. Nah, but no, but thank you again. I appreciate it. And I'm definitely gonna have you back on again and we're gonna have more discussions. Maybe we could bring in a third person and have just another good conversation. But
Hey, anything you want, dog. Like I said, I'm always here for you. And we have these conversations outside of the video. We might as well have them on the video, and hopefully, we plant seeds in those that are listening.
100%.
That's the
100.
main thing right here. We ain't doing it for ourselves. We're hoping that whoever hears this hears something. If not, the Lord uses it for His kingdom. That's what's important, you know.
Nice. And anyone out there that has watched this video, be sure to drop in the comments if there's anything that stuck out to you or resonated to you or anything that you want us to talk about on future videos. Feel free to drop it in the comments. I get to every single person. If you like this video or liked it, didn't like it, hit the thumbs up, hit the thumbs down, whichever one it is, and be sure to subscribe. I will see y'all on the next video. Have a good one.